It says Suffolk is right to abolish three-tier schooling. The County Council wants to close some middle schools. The adjudicator, who has the final say, says the plan for Beccles, Bungay, Leiston, Newmarket and Mildenhall will improve quality and save money. The Boundary Committee says Norfolk should be run by a single council. The advice published today says Suffolk should have a unitary council or two authorities covering Ipswich and Felixstowe and the rest. The final decision will be made by the government.
Plans to expand Stansted Airport have suffered another setback. An influential group of MPs says it's not convinced the case has been properly made for a second runway. They say if there really is a need, perhaps the extra runway should be at Gatwick.
They've already spent £180 million drawing up the plans, but will the runway ever become reality? Today's report from the Transport Select Committee does nothing to further the case for Stansted's expansion.
On the evidence presented to the committee, it didn't seem that there was a very strong case for Stansted. Air traffic could well pick up after the recession, and we were encouraged that it might do. But it's all about the volume of traffic, and at this point it isn't clear that a second runway is needed.
The MPs support a third runway at Heathrow, but they question if an extra one is also needed at Stansted. Given that most of the traffic is short haul, they ask if the airport would ever become a major hub. They also note that passenger numbers have been falling because of the recession. And they point to the government's own forecast for passengers by 2030. In 2003, ministers were predicting 500 million a year. That figure has gradually fallen to 435 million. And some people believe they'll soon revise it further down to 400 million.
We've been fighting this for 7 years, and the evidence against a second runway at Stansted is mounting by the day. This is another nail in the coffin for the plans.
The government and BAA say they're still committed to a second runway, but with the public inquiry already on hold while Stansted's ownership is sorted out, and with the Conservatives promising to scrap the plans if elected, the chances of it ever being built do appear to be diminishing. Andrew Sinclair, BBC Look East.
The BBC has been given exclusive access to an investigation by the police in Norfolk and Suffolk into people trafficking. Officers have spent the last year on the trail of the people behind a string of brothels across the region.
Police, stay where you are!
Police believe this is just one of half a dozen Chinese and Thai brothels operating in Ipswich, and it's likely to be a similar story in towns across the region. The women found here are being treated as victims, not criminals. Many are here against their will.
We don't want you to have to do this.
A potential customer turns up, seemingly unconcerned by the smashed-in front door.
You've obviously come here in response to an advert.
Do I have to stay?
Yes, you do, OK, because you're here and we have a power, if you want to search you, OK, under the warrant. So you're on the premises and we have a power to keep you here until we've finished with you, OK?
The person police really want to find is one Yi Young Geng. She's believed to be behind a string of brothels. They've been searching for her for several months.
It would have been good to get Geng because that would have been closure for a lot of people in relation to this case. However, we didn't get Geng, as you know, but what we did get is we got a lot of good intelligence.
This former sex worker's story is a common one. She came here to earn money for her family. Before she could send a penny home, she had to pay off £24,000 to those who brought her here.
If you wake up in the morning, count your money. Just make you feel better, really. And I said, oh, right, that's what we try to do. We count the money. That's how much my mum, my family, gonna have. That's make you feel better.
And you can see the whole of that story, including the final capture of Yi Young Geng, in tonight's Inside Out at 7:30 on BBC One. Campaigners have 50 days to save the site of what was Britain's only Roman circus. The remains are beneath a former barracks in Colchester. The campaign is still £200,000 short of its target. The owners want to build flats and a garden on the site.
Now, for the big superstores, it's become big business, groceries, everything from meat, fish and veg delivered to your door, which is fine if you have the internet to order online.
Liz Hughes used to work for a charity helping people find jobs, but not anymore.
taken me months to kind of get it up and running. Yeah, I think I started planning it back in March time, and it's taken lots of money and lots of planning, but I'm all ready to go, and I'm going to do this the rest of my life now. I'm now a grocer.
It's what she calls her village shop on wheels. It's been given grant aid by local councils, and this community near Bury is just one of 20 which have already signed up for deliveries.
It's a business case, so they've done their market research, they've asked everybody, and everybody hasn't got access to the internet to do their online shopping. And they often want to buy small quantities, and they want fresh fruit, and actually they want to pick it off the shelves. And most importantly, they want to see Lizzie and talk to her and get to know her and have personal service.
Well, in some ways I would very much like to go back to the old days. A bit slower.
Yeah.
Much slower.
Because you can remember when all the vans used to come, can't you?
Oh yes, I can remember quite a lot of things, don't you remember?
I like the old-fashioned sort of idea that you can go out and you know, the personal thing that you don't get so much with the big places these days.
A survey in this area found that 90% of people said they would support a weekly service like this. Liz Hughes will be hoping that they do. Kevin Birch, BBC Look East, in Suffolk.
You're watching Look East from the BBC. Coming up, help for heroes from the fans and the players.
After weeks of build-up, the Copenhagen Climate Change Summit is finally underway, with the credibility of the science firmly in the spotlight.
The row centred on data from the University of East Anglia, but of course they're not the only ones in this region working on the cause and effect of global warming. Our environment reporter Richard Daniel has been to the British Antarctic Survey in Cambridge.
Antarctica, an icy wilderness where in midwinter temperatures can fall to below -60 Celsius. But parts of the continent are warming. Sea temperatures have risen by 1 Celsius over the past 50 years. At the British Antarctic Survey's Rotherham Research Station, scientists are trying to find out what the implications are for all of us.
So in our aquarium we bring back a whole range of species to show the variety of life.
Back at the BAS in Cambridge, the impact on Antarctica's abundant sea life is being assessed.
These are possibly the most sensitive animals on Earth to changing temperatures. They've lived for millions of years at very low but very constant temperatures. So the temperature in the seas around Antarctica varies from about -2 to about +0.5 degree during the year, which means that a very small temperature change is a big change for animals living there.
This is ice from a core that we drilled on James Ross Island in the Antarctic Peninsula. This ice is from the last ice age, so probably about 20,000 years ago.
Analysis of water contained in ice cores is revealing how the climate has changed over millennia.
There's also the gas bubbles that are trapped within that ice, and they're actually bubbles of ancient atmosphere that have been trapped ever since the snow turned into ice. They show us how the Earth's climate behaves naturally, what sort of changes it's been able to do in the past, and that gives us an idea of what it might be able to do in the future as well.
The Antarctic also plays a central role in how heat moves around the planet and the weather we experience. Here, swirling ocean currents act like a giant heat exchanger.
Any changes to the climate in the Arctic Ocean and around Antarctica will affect how climate is in Europe and in the UK.
When it comes to understanding climate change, Antarctica is an invaluable source of information. But scientists at the British Antarctic Survey all agree many unanswered questions still remain.
If you like, each scientific study is a brick in a wall, and we don't have a wall yet. We don't know what is going to make some animals successful and some animals fail.
Richard Daniel, BBC Look East.